Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Good morning. Hey, so here is my name is Sil. I am a product manager from Cheesecake Lab, and with me today we have Ju.
Hello, guys. I'm Juliana, product owner at Cheesecake Labs. This is an annual event organized by Cheesecake Labs that takes place every March. The ultimate goal is to encourage everyone to become allies in the ongoing struggle for gender equity in both society and the technology market. This year, in 2023, we are thrilled to announce our sixth edition of the event with the theme Empowered Women, the Right Skills, the Right Team, which connects with our company's value proposition. It's really amazing to have you all around here to talk about the cryptocurrency market. Cheesecake Labs is a design and software engineering company that develops world-class digital products through a value-driven approach.
And so today I think that you had a little spoiler before because our guest was appearing here. So we have a special guest that we will become this event even more special than it normally is. So before invite Jess to join us again, I will just saying that you can feel free to drop some messages here, some questions, and in the end of the event, we will have a Q&A moment, and we will select some questions and help ask for a help of Jess to ask them. So welcome, Jessie. Now you can join in a true way. So welcome. Thank you for participating today. It's a pleasure to have this moment with you.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. I've even we've got matching shirts, so they look great.
Yeah, this is the best shirt we have. And so today the idea, as you said before, is talk a little bit more about the female in the product world and also in the cryptocurrency world. So I would like to start asking you to present yourselves and how did you decided about going the product management career, and how do you feel about that? How it works in your life?
Sure. So I'm a senior product manager at Stellar Development Foundation, which is a foundation that helps maintain the Stellar blockchain. And I work specifically on a mobile app called Vibrant, which helps people across Latin America get access to digital dollars. So I started my journey actually as a software engineer. I graduated in computer science and I went directly into building apps. And so I'm really passionate about apps and mobile technology. Spent about 5 years doing that. Was working at one of the largest educational messengers here in the US for quite a bit. But I became really passionate about this idea of talking to the user. You know, we get bugs that are reported on our app and we want to fix different things. And then I started finding my way into different conversations with users, whether it be user interviews or looking at data, and realized pretty quickly that I wanted to go the product management route. And so I went to business school to get a little bit more of a background in business. I had no prior experience in business. And then after I graduated, I went directly into product management and started at a different company and then ended up at SDF working on Vibrant, which has been super fun.
Amazing, Jessie. Thank you so much for sharing a piece of your product journey with us. It's always inspiring to hear different stories like yours. And regarding the Vibrant project, could you share with us some context about the project and the product?
Yeah, absolutely. So Vibrant actually started off. We were wanting to build something on the Stellar network that could help people save in digital dollars. We were looking around the world trying to figure out how we could possibly give users a great experience and solve a specific user issue. And we realized that if you look at Argentina, it's a hyperinflationary market, meaning money that people hold is worth much less at the end of the year. I believe last year inflation hit around 100% in Argentina. So you would have half of your savings if you held all of your money in Argentine pesos. And so this affected a lot of people, and it continues to affect a lot of people, when they're trying to save for a house or purchase a car or just pay for regular everyday things. And so we realized that this would actually be a really great opportunity for us to help solve a problem that users are having with blockchain. So we started with that, and we realized that being able to hold USDC was really powerful. But we started to notice other types of applications that were also really beneficial. When you have the ability to have this digital dollar, it's not just about holding that digital dollar. If you can instantly send it around the world for free, you actually you open up a lot of different use cases. So one example of a use case might be cross-border remittances, people in the US sending money home to family in other countries. Another example could be wage payments. So if you're a remote worker in Argentina and you're earning your wage from a US company, you kind of want to be able to earn that in the US dollars. And so these types of applications started unraveling. I think the most exciting one that I personally am passionate about is that we actually used USDC with Vibrant to distribute aid to refugees in Ukraine with a partnership with the UNHCR, which is a organization within the UN to help out refugees. We also did a partnership with the International Rescue Committee, similarly distributing aid in the same way. And so it's really fun to get to work on a mobile wallet on blockchain because you start to see all of the different ways in which blockchain can be really useful and help people.
Great, Jessie. Definitely, it's amazing to see how Vibrant's initial focus has expanded to include the global impact, like providing the financial assistance to refugees in Ukraine through the power of the USDC. It's a great example of how technology and innovation can make a real difference in people's lives. And now connecting to the product area, what were the main challenges as a product team and how were they overcome?
So that's a really great question. I think, what's funny is that coming from the US, this is maybe a very American perspective, but when you say, let's build an app in Argentina, that sounds really specific, but in reality, it's very broad. And so we opened into the market in Argentina expecting, oh, wow, people are going to just come to us organically. But we realized that, there's so many other crypto related apps, people can use Binance, people can use Ripio. There's many other exchanges available. And so we needed something that could bust us apart from those different use cases. I have this really great mentor called Amy Jo Kim, who talks often about finding your super fans. And the idea is not just, giving people, a bunch of people something that they like, but finding a subset of people that love your product. And I think that was something that was really important for us. So what we realized was that we needed to change up how we were doing targeting. Instead of targeting all Argentine users, if we talk about just Argentine users that are remote workers working for US companies, that actually ends up being a much, much smaller group of people that we can really do well with. And I think that that's been a really helpful learning for us, is not casting a net super wide and instead finding a group of people that love you and building from there.
Okay. It's fascinating to hear about how Vibrant's early journey involved finding their target audience and connecting with them in a meaningful way. It's exciting to hear that they are continuing to tailor the features to better serve this user group. And I'm really sure that it will lead to even more success for Vibrant. And it's still on the course of the project. Which teams were involved in the process and how have you collaborated with them to ensure the success of the product?
For sure. So we started off, it was actually a really small team before I joined. It was like 4 or 5 people. It has now expanded to 20 people. And so, this is including engineering, product design, customer support, marketing, various others. Business development has also been very helpful and key for us. And the way that I like to think about this like cross-functional collaboration is you're sort of the conductor, but to an orchestra where you don't play the instrument and you're trying to get everybody to play a beautiful sonata. And so, you can have opinions about what you think is the right move and have sort of larger product decisions where you say, I know that this is the user we want to target and this is the type of feature, but it's really up to each of these different pieces of your organization to come up with the best ways of resonating with your audience and the best ways of engineering something and the best ways of talking to a user when they've faced an issue with your app. And so certain things that have worked well for us, I think one thing is in terms of just dividing the group. So, you've got certain types of work that are very focused. With engineering, I know from my own past experience, it's really helpful to have heads down time where you can just focus without meetings. Same thing to some degree with design. But then, so like those are kind of makers. But then there's also managers, so people that really benefit from frequent, often collaboration. So, you think about marketers. Marketers really benefit from being on a call and being able to work through ideas. So I think that what's helpful is, making sure that the makers of the world have their heads down time, and the managers of the world have the ability to, have this frequent check-in where you're constantly getting the pulse. I think another thing that has been really helpful for us is really defining how the team works together. And I think that sometimes you have, a product manager and a product owner. Sometimes you have a technical program manager. There's like a lot of different overlapping roles here. I'm sure that Cheesecake does it differently than us, but we could learn a lot from you guys. But our engineering team runs in 2-week sprints, and that predictability means that we know exactly how much work to slate, and we keep moving forward. And I think that creating small incremental progress that we can measure has been something that's been really, really valuable for our team. The last thing I'll say is just, it's important to talk to your users and important to talk to people who talk to your users. In our case, frequent user interviews, running surveys, things of that nature have been really, really paramount to us being able to build our product. But also just talking to marketers who are also fielding social media conversations, and your customer success team who's also talking to users when they run into issues. These provide a lot of really helpful insights when you're trying to launch that product and trying to really nail it.
Well, it's really good to hear about this project, because the purpose of the project is amazing, and also understand how you were involved and how the teams worked very well together. And I really consider that you have a lot of tips that we can apply here in our project, also in the way that we manage our products too. So thank you for sharing a little bit about this project with us. It was a good experience to understand a little bit more. And now, think about that we are in the Female Week. I would like to understand more about your vision, about how women can, how is the role of women in the cryptocurrency market and the blockchain market? How do you feel that the women can collaborate with this market, and how the companies can help us to doing that?
I think that's a great question. So I think, I guess to start, I just want to say, like, women can absolutely make a huge impact in blockchain. I think it's been proven with various leaders throughout blockchain. I'll get to that in a second. But I think blockchain honestly gets a pretty rough reputation when it comes to some of these things. You have certain leaders that are very narrowly focused on helping a specific type of user. In our case at Stellar Development Foundation, we're trying to bring economic access, financial access to the world. And so when you omit 50% of your population, you're not actually able to deliver a product that resonates with everybody. And so, and also I would say that, in our case, we realize that the best companies in blockchain are actually companies that attract diverse talent. And part of that reason is that, the best women that you have, the best folks of color that you have, the best whoever, those are people that are going to want to work at the best companies. And so as long as you are, looking for the companies that are attracting the best talent, what you'll actually find is that, the idea of getting the best and getting a diverse group, these aren't at odds with each other. They're actually very much compatible. One piece of advice I would say is just, for women especially that are looking to find places to work in blockchain, I would say you've got to look at companies that see this as a competitive advantage and aren't seeing it necessarily as just something that's extra to you. It's something that can actually help you in your role. In SDF's case, my CEO is a woman, my boss is a woman of color. These inspired confidence in me that this was going to be something that would work really well. And so, just as Marcella said, very important to call out lots of women in blockchain. I also want to say that, I also work with a lot of men that see this the exact same way too. And not just men within SDF, also men at Cheesecake Labs. I've had a lot of really great working relationships with men in the field. And I think having supportive allies that can help push you forward is a really important component to this.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because as our phrase that summarizes the our female week, so empowered women, the right team, the right skills. So it totally makes sense in the whole industry, but in this industry in specific, we can take some notes here, and also even if we are working in a male team, we can make the difference as a female, as women, and we can take advantage for them. So yeah, I totally agree with you. And I would like to ask some tips from you related to how do you keep your team up to date regarding to the trends, the innovations that we have in this marketing. How do you help them to be updated?
Yeah, so I think one thing I'll say is that, SDF has had a very great culture of open collaboration and open sharing when it comes to new information. So we have a news channel where people are just constantly sending updates. But that's also, if you're operating within the industry, right? So like once you've gotten a job, that's actually when you're refining a lot of your knowledge as opposed to when you're starting. And so when I was starting, what I found really valuable was looking for blogs or other types of newsletters that would give me information on crypto. I think the Defiant is actually really good at this, Cointelegraph as well, about just publishing news and things that are going on in crypto. I also think that it's helpful to read some skeptics. And that's sort of a controversial take, but I'd recommend that people read things like Molly White, Patrick McKenzie. There's a lot of people that have a lot of critical things to say, and I think that when you look at that criticism, it can be helpful with pushing you forward and building the thing that best solves different user problems. It's just important to think critically.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jessie, for sharing your recommendations for staying up to date with the latest trends and innovations in crypto market. I think they will be incredibly helpful to everyone here. And your commitment to ongoing learning and development is truly inspiring to us. And we are really grateful to have had the opportunity to learn from you today. And to conclude our conversation, I have a thought-provoking question directed at women who are interested in entering the cryptocurrency space. What's your vision for the future of cryptocurrency, and how can women make this future happen?
Oh man, if only I had a crystal ball, right? I think all of us would be in a better spot if we could see the future. But here's my thoughts. I'll speculate here. I think that central bank digital currencies are going to explode. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the concept of central bank digital currencies, but similar to just your general money supply, it's the government of a place issuing a digital currency on a blockchain and controlling that reserve. I think that's going to be something that dramatically helps people. I think we've seen the collapse of Terra Luna and seen the collapse of, even USDC lost its peg. And I think every stablecoin runs into these types of issues. So having this, rubber stamped by governments, I think is also going to be really helpful. I think that there's going to be a future in which there's radical ownership. You'll own your assets, similar to having a bank account. Instead of stuff being held in a bank, it'll be something that you yourself have control over. You have your own assets, you have control of your keys. And I can imagine that a similar sort of thing happens with your identity, where you have this representation of your identity on the blockchain that only you have access to. I think we're going to see some big changes in terms of certain industries. One example being remittances. We're already seeing the price of remittances really dramatically lowering. It's going to become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper for people to be able to send money across borders. I think that's going to be tremendously helpful for people. But I guess to answer your question about how can a woman be a part of it, I think that the the answer is come build with us. I think it's we're hiring. SDF is hiring. Cheesecake Labs, I believe, is also hiring. We have there's plenty of companies that are really eager to hire women and really eager to attract women, and there's also organizations that are out there that are focused on women in blockchain. So I make a small plug for. There's an organization called We3, which is actually really great. So for women that are interested in engaging with a broader blockchain community, I really recommend checking it out.
Yeah, I think that we have good tips and like a long way to go over here, because we are in the beginning of this journey regarding to cryptocurrency and blockchain and how women can be more influencing this market. Okay, thank you for sharing amazing tips here. I think that everybody that not only me and you, but the whole audience can have pretty good ideas here. So thank you for that. And now we have a moment to answer some questions. So if you are watching here and you have a question that you didn't drop, please, it's your moment. So doing that, and we have a little more time here with Jessie. So I will start with the first question that you have from Aline. What do they believe are the next challenge in crypto marketing in the short term?
I think the biggest challenge that I've noticed is getting people from fiat assets onto the blockchain. I think once you're operating within the blockchain, you can do a bunch of sophisticated things like create smart contracts or other types of representations of money. And what I love about blockchain is that it's essentially programmable money. But what I think is actually really difficult is bridging that gap between fiat and crypto. And I think that that's something that Stellar is actually really great at. We've developed a whole host of different standards around different ecosystem proposals that help ramps that are tasked with converting from fiat currency to other digital currencies. But I think there's a lot of work to do, to be able to expand out to 200 countries in the world. It's a pretty significant task.
Amazing. Thanks, Jessie. Actually, we have one more question here in our chat, which is from Fabricius, known better in FIFO. Yes. Actually, his question is, Jessie, when working with blockchain, creating engaging products is very challenging due to the complexity behind the technology. Do you think we can get to a point that people use blockchain-powered solutions in the same way my parents can use a digital bank through a mobile app with ease? And if yes, how far are we from such a point?
I think that's a great question. And I think that there's a lot of different ways in which the user experience in blockchain is still really clunky. When you think about having access to your keys, like that idea of having a 24-word phrase to my parents would be very confusing. And I think, the farther you get along, you start to realize, wow, people are able to create these types of scams and other types of issues within fiat currency. How could this transform within blockchain? I think that that's one of the bigger tasks that I've realized that has been really, really important. But I think that we're going to get there. I think that it's one of those things where, we've had to keep refining this technology. When email and password first came out as a convention, that was a very radically different way of people being able to manage their tech, and they figured that out. I think that there's other types of UX changes that people are going to have to become comfortable with. But with the right messaging and the right communication, we'll get there.
It makes sense. And we have another question that it related with when we compare the cryptocurrency with the traditional marketing, traditional money. So Daniel sent a question regarding the involvement of government institutions in the future of blockchain and the possibility of adoption crypto over the traditional money. Do you see any movement happening inside the USA toward this?
Oh man, Well, I think that with the latest work with the SEC, I believe there was an action against Coinbase that came out recently, and I know that we've also had similar news come out with Binance. I think that we're seeing that there's a lot of with these centralized authorities, they've come under a lot of scrutiny with the U.S. government. But I think that is in part due to the nature of their businesses. You have certain centralized custodians that are determining what is in reality a decentralized system. And so I'm more confident that in the U.S. things will transform in a positive way. I think SDF has been very active on the Hill, talking to Congress. I know Danelle's been there multiple times at this point to have conversations with our government leaders, and so I can expect that there will be tides shifting once people realize that it's not about speculating, on some fabricated asset. It's about giving people real world utility. I think, are we there tomorrow? Are we going to be there in a year? No, I think it's going to take, probably even maybe a decade to get the U.S. government to trust blockchain, and then even more time probably to get widespread adoption.
Totally agree. Actually, we have a question here that it's really nice from Elena, and the question is regarding if you recommend any courses about crypto for beginners, for example.
That is a great question. There's actually a really great course that my former boss, Kyle McCollum, created about how the Stellar blockchain works. I think it's actually really helpful to go super deep on a single blockchain and understand how that technology works and then generalize. Because every system has its own consensus mechanisms and every system operates slightly differently. Another simpler one is just to look at how Bitcoin operates and follow specific courses there. But I think that the application is a little bit different. But yeah, I would be happy to share, and perhaps maybe at the end I can share with the group a link to that Stellar focused course, which is great.
Amazing tips, because I think that I will do some of this course. It's really good to understand more about this market. And we have another question here now from Cello. And as you said, the nickname of Marcel. I'm curious to hear about the long-term vision of Vibrant Wallet and app. Where do you see the product evolving? Do you see the product expanding and delivering value to users outside Argentina and US?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that we've been working on broadening ourselves more and more, and it's all just dependent on how do we get users to add money to their app. In our case, we've been really focused on Argentina. We most recently actually just started launching in the US. We're about to roll out a referral-based program for people to be able to refer their friends and start using Vibrant, which is really exciting. We're also seeing some activity happening in Colombia as well. And so I think that for us, our focus for right now is certainly Latin America and really just broadening. Initially when we were thinking about the product, we were focused super on Argentina. I think you could see South America and Central America being a really great focus for us, and really locking down specific use cases. So having us be the de facto focus of the wage payment space. If we can beat Deal and other companies like that, I think that's going to be really tremendous for us. I think also tackling remittances, so being able to be seen as a substitute for Remitly or Wise. Those are things that I think Vibrant can be really good at. Specifically, getting people to send money across borders. And so we're super focused on the corridors between different parts of Latin America. I don't think that'll change in the near future, but you can imagine as time evolves, or as time goes on as well, we'll evolve to hit other continents as well.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing, Jessie. We have one more question here from FIFO. What's your opinion on these other use cases in Web3 like NFTs, supply chain solutions, and other cases not related to finance?
I think I would say I have a little bit more skepticism when it comes to things like NFTs, just because we've seen the total collapse of the NFT art market. But I would say that my opinion is probably not shared with the majority of SDF. I think this is the type of debate that we'll have very, very frequently within the organization. I've seen there's been examples of NFT-based sound solutions or NFT-based music players, NFT-based, you can own an asset that represents a piece of real estate. I think that there's certainly a conversation to be had about the enforceability, but if there is a way to create smart contracts in such a way that it gets people to actually use the NFT, I think there's potential there. In terms of supply chain solutions, I haven't read up on that, but also really, really curious too. I think I'm going to do that right after this.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And we have another interesting question here. Starting by thank you for joining us today. So regarding to the question, what do you think are the biggest challenges to scaling blockchain the short term? So is regulation, is complexity, any other reason?
I would say regulation is probably the hardest one, to be honest. I think that each country is coming out with a different standard for how these things should operate. And it can be really difficult to sort of make sense of how you can expand when each country operates so differently. And I think that there have been in traditional finance, I think there's been much more of a convergence for how these systems should operate. I know that there is a standard created by Visa and MasterCard, this company called EVM, that develops a QR code based standard for payments. And so I think that there's, and by the way, that QR code based system for payments is used not only in Singapore and Vietnam, but also in Argentina. I'm pretty sure it's also available in Brazil. And so I think that it's a matter of working with regulators to make sure that all the systems are coming on the same page. I would say that once you get past the regulatory hurdle, there is some complexity in the sense that each chain operates differently. But when you have these interoperable bridges, I know that Stellar, for instance, we're launching a bridge with Polygon, I want to say, called Star Bridge. Those types of bridges are also really helpful with enhancing that interoperability. And so that greatly reduces the complexity of these systems. So I think the human constraints, the regulatory constraints are probably the biggest ones to fix. But once those are fixed, the systems themselves work quite well.
That's amazing to hear your thoughts, Jessie. We have more questions here from Aline. Do they see crypto as being more accessible to people in the future, especially women, since it's more technical than regular money?
I think that's a great question. I guess I'll frame it this way. Is there anything inherently, are women inherently going to be worse at handling technical challenges? I don't think so. So I would say that even if there are higher barriers to entry in terms of the technical capability that one must have right now, I actually think right now women aren't at a disadvantage. I think that we're capable of learning plenty about a blockchain and being able to use it. I think that there's other questions about for non-blockchain enthusiasts, is this a system that's easy to learn right now? And I think the answer is a very patent no. It's something that we're working on, but is definitely not there. And that's why we have to keep working on it and making sure that we're streamlining these systems and making them much more easy to build upon, much more easy to use, and much more easy to understand, which I think is the most important part.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I was just saying we don't have more questions, but now we have one more. So from Gustavo, we have a question here. So how do you see the impact of the SBV issue on fintechs investments in blockchain projects?
Oh, I mean, I I think it's catastrophic, if I can be honest. I think it's a really, really significant issue, not just for blockchain, but for all types of startups. I've worked at companies that have had their money in SVB, and thank God, they're going to be made whole. But I think it's still a really scary thing for anyone that's starting a business. One thing that we saw with USDC is that USDC, because Circle had such large holdings at SVB, it called those into question. And so I'm sure there's a ton of work happening at Circle right now about how do you balance risk and make sure that everything is super balanced out. That's something that's also impacted us. It's like we can depend on a single stable coin, but that stable coin might not be the right one when push comes to shove. And so building truly resilient systems on blockchain, I think, is what is a big task for us. Figuring out how to balance risk so that if there is a run on the bank, it doesn't hit crypto as well. But I do think it's very interesting, that this impacted the fiat world, and yet we use completely different language when we talk about that versus the crypto world, because I do think that they are very similar types of issues.
Thanks. We have one more question here. What are most excited about the future of blockchain? Any projects you follow closely?
Oh, nice man. Too many to name. I think for me, I'm all about trying to figure out how to get people to actually use these systems. And so for me, my mouth starts watering when I start seeing other anchors come on board and say, hey, we're ready to bridge that fiat crypto gap. That's like the thing that I'm most excited about. That said, I would say that that's not a very sexy part about blockchain. A lot of people are really excited about smart contracts coming to Stellar. I think that that's one thing that I've been personally really, really thrilled to see happen. We actually had a hackathon internally where we had people build a bunch of different prototypes, and it was really awesome to see different things that people can do. I think that also I'm excited about there being more enhanced collaboration between blockchain focused companies and TradFi companies. We've seen various different companies come our way interested in collaborating with us that had no prior experience in blockchain. And I think we're going to see a whole lot more of that. MoneyGram is, I think, the example that we talk about endlessly till we're tired, because it's a really great one. It's helping MoneyGram be able to facilitate fast transfers of money without having to balance their books in various countries. Yep, exactly. It's not sexy, but it's super helpful.
Yeah, it is. So I think we don't have more questions here. So 3, 2, 1, we don't have more questions right now. And we shared with everybody that's watching us your LinkedIn. So anyone, feel free to contact Jessie if you have any questions, or if you want to share any knowledge about that. I think that it will be a pleasure. Me and Julie will share our LinkedIn here too. So if you want feel free to contact us any moment. And on behalf of Cheesecake Lab, we really would like to thank you for staying today with us. We would like to thank everybody that take a time to watching us, to interact with Jessie, to understand more about this interesting about this marketing. So we are really really thankful for that. So I think that now we are going to the end of the event here, and it was a pleasure to us have you here today, Jessie. And I think that everybody will take advantage for this moment. So you shared a lot of tips, a lot of thoughts about this market, a lot of thoughts about how women can collaborate at this market. So it was an amazing moment that we have here today. And I would like to invite everybody to join us on the social networks. So on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and you can follow the news from Cheesecake Labs. And also you will be updated about the events on next year and the years below, because we will doing it every year. So the idea here is just have this moment collaborating together. So thank you again, Jessie. It was a pleasure to have you today here.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you so much, and some great questions from everybody. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jessie. It was a pleasure.
Sure.
Yeah.